reminder here, wrong class. We have the presentation start next week. So I think we're the first 4. Ben, Adriana, JJ, and I think Cameron was the first one. He's not here. Hopefully he remembers. I don't think he's been in class to hear a reminder yet.
Was there yesterday?
Maybe I'll send him a personal email or give him a reminder during the community time. Gavin, can you help me to remind him? Maybe.
Yeah, I got it.
James, can you help me to remind Cameron during community time about his presentation next week? Thanks. Let's leave one on the absent people desk too. I don't think I've done enough to.
Free go.
Yes.
Most people got from a 40 to a 70.
So,
I feel that.
I
17.
so there's this chapter, the pages that we work together, kind of like they all continue off of each other, so it's like one sheet for all 4 sections. So this will be something that like you'll turn in. I'm going to give you the same one back. That's why it's not all together in a packet. If that makes any kind of sense to you. I thought it was like a little unhelpful, but that's the way that the thing is formatted for us. So I'm going to give you guys like this same sheet will be used for the 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, and 3-4 assignments. I have like extras and stuff, you will lose it, but that's kind of the story with this, is that it's gonna be the same thing. So I didn't staple it all together in a packet, because it felt like it's just gonna be easier to do it this way, where they're all loosey-gooseyed. But we'll figure that out together, I guess. They all look identical too, which is also super helpful, right? Like the name at the top says, you know, work together and on your own and stuff, but like, you know, not, other than that, they look identical. So everybody should have 3 separate handouts. There's the work together on your own application. They're all these multi-column journals pages, so we're just gonna be adding to the work from like 3-1 when we do 3-2, and then when we do 3-3, we add on again, and we do 3-4, we add on again. So it's like a running document throughout the chapter. So I'm going to remind you all of this now. We're not going to throw these away when you get them handed back. You're going to use it again next class. So like, you know, this is going to be the handout for all 4 sections, is these 3 papers here. Everybody's good? So in this chapter, we're going to start putting all these separate ideas together. So in the first chapter, we looked at the accounting equation and just kind of how, you know, the accounting equation has to remain balanced for every transaction, a little bit on how to like track a transaction and how to record it under 2 different accounts. In the last chapter, we looked at this T account procedure where we can use, we can kind of record the transaction in these separate account headings. And here we're gonna kind of start putting this together. So you're gonna take your like accounting equation and these T accounts and build this together in this thing called a multi-column journal, where we'll learn how to record transactions here with debits and credits. But it's all gonna be like, can be done on a single sheet of paper, like a standard sheet of paper, rather than, you know, like something that's like you have to roll out across the room and it's like a mile long, where our accounting equation would look like if we had just written it, you know, had like a separate account heading for everything. So that's kind of the idea here. So you're gonna look at, in this first section, define what a journal is and explain why it's used to record transactions. Compare and contrast different types of source documents, and then identify the 4 parts of a journal entry. So just a little bit of vocab to start. To form for recording transactions in chronological order is called a journal. Also note chronological order, so it's in order that they happen. Dates matter here. Recording transactions in a journal is called journalizing. So an example of what a multi-column journal might look like is here. We'll explain what all these different little headings mean and how to do that, how to use that. You'll notice that this is close to what you have on your sheet of paper. You have a general journal on your working papers as opposed to a multi-column. Notice the difference being that there's like a separate heading for sales and cash here in the multi-column. So these are the special amount columns, the sales and cash. So the reason we might want to use a journal to record these entries, well, accuracy, it gets everything kind of into one place. It's a chronological record, so you have to, like in time, so you can find a specific transaction easier because everything is dated. And it features like a double entry accounting in that for every transaction there's a debit and a credit. So information for each transaction in a journal is called an entry. And the process of recording the debit and credit parts of a transaction is called double entry accounting, which is what we've been doing this whole time, right? Every transaction has had a debit part and a credit part. Add some money or subtract when it's on the same side, or like add to both sides or subtract from both sides. We talk about the accounting equation. Everything we've done has been like a double entry though. So let's talk about some common source documents. So it's basically your paper trail. So as a business, you're gonna have source documents for which these transactions can be verified. So types of source documents might be a check. So, like who has a checking account? Show of hands. At a bank, a checking account. Have you written a check out of it? So like kind of have an idea of what a check is, right? When you write a check, you fill out, you get the carbon on the back, right? So you see on the left side, in a business checkbook, usually you have also a stub at the back that you'll fill out when you write the check in addition to getting the carbon. So as the person that's written the check, you have record of what the transaction was, and the person that's holding the check, obviously they have a record of the transaction. That's the idea there. Another type of source document might be an invoice. So if you perform a service for someone or you sell something to someone, you typically invoice them if you don't receive cash at the transaction. So in the case of like, the guy, you hire somebody to mow your lawn every week. Typically you don't pay them at the end of each job, they just send you a bill at the end of the month to pay. Or if you have some work done, like whether you have like the plumber comes or, like whatever, you have somebody you hired to do some work for you, you may pay them right then on the spot, or they might just bill you later. Business will work the same way. If you buy something as a business, they'll probably just invoice you and you'll pay later. You write them a check later. So that's an invoice. That's a copy or a record of a account receivable, right? That's money that should be coming back to you as the business owner. So there are actually two different type of invoices. So there's sales invoices, which is what that was. And then there's like the other kind of invoices where like you bought something, now you owe someone. It's like your bill that they send with your stuff. Another type of source document can be a receipt. So that's a record for if somebody is paid in cash. So every time somebody pays you in cash, you hand them a receipt. That's a record of how you track where this cash in your cash register came from. So this is this source document is for like that seed investment, where the owner pays money into his business to start the business, to give it some cash to do business with. Kind of a miscellaneous expense might be taken care of, or might be sourced with a memo. So like if you're the business owner and you're like, we were out of copy paper and I went to the store to bought some copy paper from the store, you might write that up as a memo. Or you took your workers out for lunch one day and you just paid for it out of the company monies, you might write that up as a memo. You could have a calculator tape, so like a cash register receipt. If you had like an old school cash register where it records the transactions of probably monies coming in. So what we're going to talk about now is how we can take one of these source documents, or well, probably at the start, a transaction, and start recording it into a journal, like making a journal entry out of a transaction. So that journal is going to be like, it's going to be like the original entries. It's like your permanent record. When we fill this out, we use ink and a pencil, and we record 00 on pennies to record like a whole dollar amount. So if you haven't been writing 0.00 in the cents, you need to start doing that. We'll show you how to record that on the sheet in front of you in just a moment with an example. Everybody's okay? All right, so let's look at an example of a transaction, how to record that into our journal. Very good? This is like the how part now. So the transaction was received cash from owner as investment, $2,000, and it's recorded as receipt number 1 is the name of the source document. We're giving that. We saw that earlier in the slides. Where was it? Right here. This is our receipt number 1. Labeled receipt number 1 on it. See at the top? So this is the source document that we're referencing. So in our T accounts, we have debit to cash 2,000 because the cash is increasing. And we have Michael Delgado Capital will be credit to 2,000, right? Because the company is now $2,000 more valuable. Is okay there? So in our multi-column journal, we record the date, January 2nd. The account title is Michael Delgado Capital. The document number is receipt 1, so we'll call that R1. We are getting a credit of $2,000.00. Notice this blank, we have slots for the dollar amounts and then a separate slot for the pennies. And then under the cash column, we're gonna have a debit of $2,000.00. Everybody's okay there? So the 4 parts of every entry is you have a date, you have a debit amount, you have a credit amount, and the name of the account receiving the credit, and then the source document. So those are the 4 parts of any journal entry. Is okay? So date, credit, debit, source.
Will we eventually use the post reference?
Yes, but I think that happens in like chapter 4 or 5. I've read up to that far, so I know what it is. But for right now, we're going to ignore that. It has to do where like you have like sub-journals where like you're referencing some sub-journal inside of another journal is what the post reference refers to. But we'll talk about that much later. Well, at least a little later. Sometime later. I can't remember when later. Now and later. All right, let's look at another example of recording one of these transactions into our journal. So this is paid cash for supplies. They're calling this check number 1 if we scroll back through this. This is our check number 1 that they're referencing. It's the same source document we looked at earlier. Okay, so we're paying cash for supplies. We have a debit to the supply side and then a credit to the cash side. Since they're both asset classes, one goes up, the other goes down in the transaction. Everybody's okay there? Okay, so if I record this into a multi-column journal, again, we'll have our date. Notice that I didn't rewrite Jan in the spot where it would be. Where's my mouse? All right, I understood. Oh, there it is. Right? And the reason I didn't rewrite January there is because I only have to write January once, and then I'll just have the days of the month recorded. I won't write a new month name until I have a transaction taking place in February, and I write Feb and the number, and then just numbers for every transaction after that until I get to a March transaction. Is everybody okay with what I'm saying? It's not wrong if you do it, but it's unnecessary and not standard. So again, we're recording this. So again, we start by writing the date. Note that we didn't have to rewrite the month because it was already there from above. We record the debit amount, which in this case was to the account supplies. And again, we know that's a debit because supplies is an asset class account. We record the credit, which is coming from the cash account. Again, an asset class, so if one goes up, the other has to go down. We have a debit, we have to have a credit. And then the source document in the source document column is labeled as C1, C for check, and then 1 because it's the first check. So far, so good? All right. So let's check to see how closely we're paying attention. In what order are transactions recorded in a journal?
Chronological.
Chronological, by date. Very good. Why are source documents important?
Because they help, like, what is it called? They organize receipts, like, what's it called?
What else you guys got here? There's kind of a lot of different answers you could have on this.
More organized.
Okay, for organization, sure. How do you know if what you wrote down in your journal is correct and you didn't make a typo? You can reference the source document, right? Like, that's like A number 1 is to make sure that what's written down in the journal is actually correct. Is you go back to the original source document like, oh, this was a check for $200, not $2,000. Oh, what a mistake. There's that missing $1,800 that we couldn't figure out where it was supposed to be at. And what are the 4 parts of a journal entry?
Date,
Date,
Account
Total.
Account. Debit, credit, and source document.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what you meant by account title, I think. But that's the gist of it. That was 3-1. Let's practice using this journal that's in front of us.
Ben, I'm not gonna lie, Ben, have you paid attention a decent amount of class?
Yeah.
You're not visually studying.
Huh?
I literally know everything, and I really don't know that.
Can you just email me the link? I'm
Bro, it was like EHYTONSCHMIT.
There's 32 flashcards. I'm there.
Is that the process?
That should be the latest. All right. So we're looking at page 64 out of your textbook. I have it displayed here on the board. You guys should find the work together sheet on top. Should be work together is what we're looking at. Get your name on that paper. You're gonna have to turn this in. I have to be able to give it back to the right person so we can continue using this in 3-2 and 3-3 and so on. All right, the directions here say a journal is given in the working papers. Your instructor will guide you through the following example. Norma Dirks owns Dirks Coffee Center, which uses the following accounts, yada, yada, yada. This is page 64. And we're given 2 transactions. It says journalize each transaction completed during April of the current year. Use page 1 of the journal. Source documents are abbreviated as follows. Check is C, receipt R. Save your work to complete the work together for 3-2. So again, you'll turn this in today and I'll turn it back to you next time and we'll use it again. Or if we keep on going and we get through 3-2 today, then we just do the work together. Again, I'll take it, the whole thing, and get it back to you again. It's time. All right, so transaction 1 says April 1st, received cash from owner as an investment, $2,800.00. It says right here.
Yep.
So the date we should write here is April 1st, so APR, and then 1 in the spot for date. What account title are we working with here?
Investment, cash.
Capital and cash.
Would we have to do two because there's no cash like category?
Yeah, this is,
Yeah, it just says debit or credit.
Oh, it's cut off.
oh, is that what happened?
It's cut off.
That is what happened. Ay, ay, ay.
Shut up.
Yup, yeah.
It's cut off here.
Let me look. Alright, this is,
Let's close it out.
Only like, there's like a word bank.
Like, nobody can not worry about it.
I don't know, any of them, no matter.
No issue. What resources?
That's it.
That's just it. Resources like. Outside of here. That's
Dorio has way too many trophies.
Is this like the menu scroller?
Probably all these combinations.
Even if you move your,
Doing
like, to help the best, that.
We're using it the best.
that you come close.
Is that whole color side?
That's it, that's what you know,
There's better than
one moment, please.
You should join it, Joe. It's called.
What's like a video? I don't think I'll do it.
It's not that hard. I got it, like, it's using it.
He knows the next one? Is it three actions? First up, let's because Caitlin, remember we started everything had to shift them,
I need to.
Sorry, it's called scarcity.
I need to take my time.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I was like,
distribution,
could have